Coda Radio time. 2. It's a double Coda Radio time, actually. Welcome in. We're getting set up, getting that chat room. Coda Radio 548 and 549 are about to kick off. Mr. Dominic is en route. Thanks for being here. Hello, commercial streams. All right, the chat room is open. One of our last live streams of the year. It's a double, and I got one Microsoft clip. They're trying to make nice with the unions and get ahead of the AI impacting workers meme.
Microsoft announcing a new partnership with the AFL-CIO. Our Eamon Javers is in D.C. with the latest. Morning, Eamon.
Good morning, Carl. It's a big labor deal. It's happening just in the room off to my left here at AFL-CIO headquarters in Washington, D.C. Microsoft and the labor organization announcing a new partnership here that they say is designed to focus on worker rights and responsibilities in this new era of AI. The whole fear of massive unemployment related to AI is what they're addressing here in the room. Specifically, the two organizations say there are 3 elements to this partnership. Here's what they say that they're going to do in the coming months and years. They're going to share AI information between labor leaders and workers. So that envisions a series of educational seminars by Microsoft officials to labor organizers to help them understand the direction that AI is going. They're going to incorporate worker perspectives and expertise, they say, in the development of AI technology at Microsoft. So that envisions, real feedback from workers who are using AI to the people who are developing the product as well. And then they're also going to talk about helping to shape public policy that supports the technology, skills, and needs of frontline workers. So that is the overall policy environment in this country in terms of AI and workers. And obviously, guys, we are coming off of a very big year for big labor. A couple of labor leaders in the room here for this announcement. UAW's Shawn Fain is here, coming off of a big win for his workers. Also, some representatives of SAG-AFTRA are in the room today as well in the wake of that Hollywood writers' strike. So there's a lot of mobility here behind big labor going into the end of 2023.
If you don't know who I am, I'll tell you so you understand. If you don't know who I am, I'm Melody Man. I'm Melody Man. If you don't know who I am, I'll tell you so you understand.
Now, one of the stories we'll be getting to today is actually changing right as we go on air. I don't know. This just got published 20 minutes ago, and this clip might already be out of date. Let's see.
Apple is shutting down a third-party app that allowed Android users to use the Apple iMessage service. That messaging service, which is exclusive to Apple products, is something Google and competitors have long called on regulators to act upon. Deirdre Bosa spoke to the app's CEO for today's Tech Check, and
Check.
A lot of folks know that group text message with that one green bubble guy or gal. What does this now all mean?
It's so frustrating when you get that green bubble for both sides. Some people know it as green bubble stigma. If you text with Android users or you are an Android user, you know exactly what we're talking about here. Missing features, no read receipts, distorted media quality, group chat issues. Well, a startup called Beeper found a workaround last week, suddenly and seamlessly.
A workaround.
By downloading a paid app, Android users could send blue bubble messages and group chats. They automatically switched over to iMessage. This is a breakthrough if you've been one of these people on either side of it. It caught on like wildfire. 100,000 downloads in 48 hours. Just a few days later, though, Apple shut it down, citing security, saying that it was trying to protect the privacy and security of their iMessages. I did speak to Beeper CEO Eric Migakovsky, who had this to say in response.
We think that statement is complete fear, uncertainty, and doubt, or FUD. It's untrue. Beeper Mini actually makes communication between iPhone customers and Android users more secure. So what Apple tried to do over the weekend was actually make iPhone customers have a less secure chat experience.
So Apple has, in fact, considered integrating Android messaging in the past, but emails that were made public through another regulatory battle, Apple versus Epic, it revealed that Apple believes iMessage is a way of locking users into the Apple ecosystem. In other words, protect its walled garden. This is a strategy, though, that is increasingly at odds with app developers and regulators.
There's a small band of us that are fighting the good fight and trying to make a more open, equitable, and offer consumers more choice. Because as of right now, there's too many lock-in effects that are causing people to not be able to choose the technology that they want to use.
And that band is actually getting bigger. Meanwhile, Senator Elizabeth Warren, she has been tracking this particular battle as well, posting over the weekend on X. Big tech executives are protecting profits by squashing competitors. Dom, certainly this is not the last.
Oh, Liz. Oh, Liz. Of course she makes it about that. Of course she does. I see you, Mr. Dominic. I don't hear you, but I see you.
Hello.
Hi
hello,
there. I hear
hello.
you. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Hello there. Guess what? It's Monday.
It is Monday.
It's Monday. It's Monday.
Okay.
And I don't know. We don't have a very active chat room.
We do
Holiday.
not.
You know, this is why we should just have the AI generate shows for us on the holidays, because people stop showing up. People ain't
It
showing
is,
up.
yeah.
They don't, just have the AI do it.
That's right. That's what it's for.
All right. How about to start it? How are you feeling? You ready over there?
I am okay.
Okay. Well, we got Magnolia Mayhem in there. And
What's
Gamma
up,
Bot.
Mayhem?
So, there you have it. All right. If you'd like to get in our chat room, you can just head over to Jupiter. Actually, the quickest route is coder.show/matrix. That'll send you right into the Coder Radio General chat, where we're chatting as we go, and you can bang suggest, because we're obviously gonna needs. Okay. I got some junk in my trunk, which is my throat. All right. Hi, Drew. Hello, Drew. Mr. Dominic, jump in at 4, please. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
Nice. Okay. We start with 548. Hey, Rodden's in there. Hey, Rodden. We got 2 people in there. All right, here we go. 548. Give us a good title. It's just you 2 in there, I think. Maybe there's more. This is Coder Radio, episode 548 for December 11th, 2023. Hello, friends, and welcome into Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business of software development and the world of technology. My name is Chris, and joining us from a probably warm and delightful Florida area, it's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hello, Mike.
Hello, Chris, and I'm pretty excited to say that I will now be starring as a side quest in the new GTA 6. Did you hear about this?
Oh man, I've seen like comparison shots from like scenes in the game that replicate like crazy, ridiculous things that have happened in Florida.
So Florida is unusual. Well, you know what? That sentence could just stop there. But a interesting thing is Florida has actually taken transparency to a very radical step in terms of government policies. Like good government part of it is like every budget, they're just open. Every salary, every budget, every contract.
Wow, really?
There's like every once in a while there'll be an exception, but those exceptions are usually time gated. But for the most part, it's all just in the open. All records of like work product produced by public services, such as in this case the police, are open. The problem with that is anybody who gets arrested but not necessarily convicted, even in Florida, the record of their arrest, including their mugshot and any pertinent, relevant other stuff, is totally accessible via the internet.
And to the press, hence all the Florida Man stories, because they have all the source material to work with.
Right. The defenders of Florida say Florida Man is not really a real thing. It's just because, like in most states, you get arrested. There's a record of the arrest, but like they don't it's not like Googleable so easily,
right?
Including pictures. especially if you're not convicted, right?
Right. It just takes
In
like
Florida-
one reporter who like knows how this system works, and they can just sit back and fish.
Oh, it's very easy, right? It's very easy. Like it weirdly competent is the state of Florida and most of the counties in Florida with running large databases of people that might be in jail. But that's like a whole nother conversation.
All right.
So with Rockstar Games, the folks who develop and publish Grand Theft Auto decided to do, and I question how legal this is, but we're going to find out because they're going to get sued, is go through these records and find, of course they find the most crazy ass cases, right? Like the dude who dresses like the Joker and like has face tattoos to look like the Joker, like the Jared Leto Joker, who was known as Miami Joker and now is known as Florida Joker. I believe he's involved in narcotics in some way. There's also like the grandma who I think tried to kill someone. Like, did they just basically pick a bunch of the most batshit cases you can find and made digital versions of them for the game? I guess I should have prefaced this. For those who don't know, GTA 6 is taking place in effectively an exaggerated Florida, we could say.
The Florida Joker man is suing for $2 million.
Oh, he's pissed.
Yeah.
Although, honestly, if I'm Florida Joker man, I don't know this guy from Adam. Thank God. This might save his life.
Oh, this is a
Look,
great brand opportunity.
Well, not just that. I mean, you're suing for $2 million. You're Rockstar Games, so on the other side. Do you really want this big lawsuit that if you lose is going to set a precedent and you're going to have to get rid of all this stuff? Or do you pay him off?
Yeah.
Give him $100,000. Give him $200,000.
He's going to be set. He's going to be known now. Yeah, this is great. What an opportunity.
Just avoid meth.
Yeah.
Right. That would. Yeah.
Looking at that face, I'm thinking that's probably out. I'm thinking.
No. Rockstar Games and the county of Miami-Dade County, are happy to tell you that he has some problems. That is why he became famous.
The announcement of this game by many. So I monitor a ridiculous. I mean, I may be undercounting when I say it's probably north of 1,000 feeds. And I pull them all into Feedly, and then Feedly they've had it for years now, way before everybody else. Feedly has an AI component that helps me categorize and sort some of these feeds. And I can see what is getting reported on the most in different slices of the different tech niches. And by far, one of the biggest stories in the last week is the announcement of this Grand Theft Auto game. I get it. I mean, it's fun, but one of the biggest stories, it's in terms of social media chatter and in terms of press coverage, it's blowing everything else away. And I thought we would reach a real milestone with these large language models this week. And I thought this should be the big story. Nobody's talking about this. But OpenAI has confirmed that they have received multiple reports of GPT-4 getting lazier. They say they haven't updated the model since November 11th. It isn't intentional, but they say model behavior can be unpredictable, and they're looking into why GPT-4 has gotten lazier. This is, I think, a fascinating milestone in the project that is large language models being unleashed onto the public.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, some folks were frying some bacon, claiming that they think that OpenAI is basically having ChatGPT kind of tell you to RTFM as a way to cut down their server costs.
Oh.
I'm not sure I buy that they would intentionally do that. I think it's, this stuff is unpredictable. And I can tell you, it's funny, I had a ChatGPT experience with the dude at Alderon, and there is a big difference between really focusing on how you write your prompt.
Yes.
And just putting in here's a line of code, help me.
Massively. Yeah.
Massively. And he's really got some good techniques for it. And I do wonder if that's maybe not what this is, that if you put in maybe too vague of a SOS help me or just answer my question, that it doesn't really know what to do. But if you really structure it in a way that it likes, you can get some really detailed kind of super useful answers out of it.
Yeah, all these large language models are like this. It really comes down to the prompt and how you engineer that prompt, even if you're or the Stable Diffusion type stuff as well. massive difference in just some of the minor wording of the prompts. And that is really the skill set you have to learn there. I still like that they're investigating that it's lazy. It just seems so funny to me. Maybe it's burned out. It's the holidays. It's had a big year, dude.
It's thinking of becoming a barista. It's done.
It wants to open up a barbecue shack and just do low tech.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of low tech, it doesn't get much more low tech than one of the best robes in the world. And, inflation and shipping is still, it has, boy, did it struck the Coder robe in all of the ways that are very frustrating. In fact, it's really at a point now where it costs us so much to ship it and it costs us to store it, where it's just sort of awful. But I have a stash of 20 that I can take $10 off because the robe is not cheap. And a warning, the shipping isn't cheap either. We're not making a profit on this. It sucks always to every possible direction in every possible universe. And on top of that, I'm paying to store these damn things in a warehouse, a monthly fee. But it's a hell of a situation. But you know what? Hell, if you want one, I'm going to make 20 available for $10 off when you use the promo code SWIFT. Only 20, limited amount, JupiterGarage.com. We'll put a link in the show notes for the Coder robe. It's not cheap. It is nice. It'll last you forever. I have my original, and I have one from this batch. Both great. And if you use the promo code SWIFT, it'll take $10 off, a limited 20 available because of the cost. It's horrible. But there you go. The damn robe is back. Are you happy? I did this for you. Because
I am happy.
Your robe passion.
You know what? I get DMs about the robe.
I'm thrilled. Can you tell I'm thrilled?
Yeah, I know. I feel like you just want to get rid of these robes.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, it costs me just to keep them now. It costs me to move them. It costs me to keep them. It's ridiculous. It's when the first round we did, I should have stopped there because it was before inflation and shipping and all of that got crazy. And it's disproportionately gotten more crazier for smaller business than this for somebody like Amazon or a Walmart. It's just talk about a crazy little thing to have some insight into that's not really my normal area. Yeah. The Coder robe.
Well, folks, while you're enjoying your Coder robe and writing your Objective-C, you'll need a beverage. But you don't want to spill anything on your expensive MacBook Pro. So get a Coder tumbler. It's been Dominic tested.
JupiterGarage.com. Craig and others came in with some browser solutions for me because, I got this browser drama going on where they crash all the time. He says, you mentioned Edge was trying to open before your keychain had unlocked. Could you set your default browser maybe to a shell script that would then wait for the keychain to be unlocked before then launching Edge? I suspect requiring a password to log in and boot would unlock it. Yes. Yeah, it is because I auto log in. Absolutely. I do that because my workstation is part of an overall studio automation script. Here's what I did, and I'll put a link to this in the show notes. I just did a really basic workaround. What I needed to solve for was that the browser was getting launched before my desktop keychain was unlocked. And for some Chromium-based browsers, if you do it in that order, they lose their mind, and it's like you've never run them before. So what I did is I set my default browser to an app called Junction. And Junction is inspired by an app on macOS, which I'm forgetting the name of. But Junction is a very small little dialogue that comes up whenever you click a URL on your box. And it's just a little quick. It almost looks like an Alt-Tab dialogue. It's just, like a modal screen that comes up. And it asks you, which browser would you like to open this link in? And it sits there and waits for you to click which browser you want to open. And that was my workaround. So what happens now is Junction comes up asking me which browser I want to launch. It never launches the browser until I click it, and then I can unlock the keychain. It's a silly, very Linuxy workaround, but it is working. I got some recommendations for Vivaldi as well. Have you ever tried Vivaldi, Mike?
A while back.
Yeah.
I've mostly stuck with Safari. I did use Edge for a while. It was fine, but I'm basically in Safari and Chrome.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I might give it a go if I continue to have problems. I tried it a while ago. It was a lot of browser, and I kind of just wanted to go back to Chrome after I used it for a bit, but they seem like they really focused on performance, and I do like me some performance. So Vivaldi came in with some strong recommendations. Alderon.games/coder. That's right. They're looking to hire some Coder Radio listeners, and they got some job openings over there. For details, listen to the full read in the show, or just go to alderon.games/coder. Some great positions over there, and if you're listening to this show, you probably got a toe in the door already. Alderon.games/coder. Well, we were going to sit here and talk about Gemini. One more AI story, I guess, for the end of the year. I think this is hopefully it. And instead, what we're going to talk about, and what everybody is talking about, is that Google essentially faked one of their demos. We all probably saw this. It was a big deal. It was a demo featuring a spoken conversation with Gemini, and Gemini identified drawings in real time, like that's a duck, that's a fish. In actuality, it was all edited together. There was no actual spoken prompt. It did not go that smoothly. It didn't recognize images that quickly. Even some of the things that were demonstrated seemed like they were somewhat modified, like the connect the dot example. So Google faked a demo and botched their second AI big release. And just like with their Bard demo that failed, once this news came out, Google's stock tumbled again. The second time in a row where they have fumbled this. The company that potentially has the most legitimate AI tech with the most high signal data sources and data sets in the world fumbled the ball again. Meanwhile, little OpenAI, run by a psychopath and a maniac corporation desperate for relevancy, continue to lap them. Explain that to me.
I mean, it's weird, right? I mean, I'm not even sure I understand why they faked this demo. They didn't really need to. I understand they feel pressure, but it's totally self-inflicted pressure. Like, you're Google, you're fine. It's. I kind of want to chalk it up to how lazy tech reporting's become, which I know is kind of a wild side take, but there was a day where like the tech reporters really did get into the weeds about how stuff worked. Now it's
you're right.
Who can put on the spectacle for them to get the digital ink written,
right? And then they're they're writing and riffing off of the video they've watched instead of interrogating the product.
Right. We're talking to like some of the engineers.
Man, that's a great point. You're right. Okay. And one other kind of side tangent thing before we get any further. They're also fumbling the branding already. Like Gemini is separate from Bard, but Gemini is going to be inside of Bard, but not fully inside of Bard yet. And you're going to have Bard and Gemini. They're already screwing this aspect of it too. They're not even a year into it, and they've already muddled with multiple different brands and 2 botched launches. It's head shaking. There's something very broken and very sick inside Google.
Well, I think they've become the Microsoft of the early aughts, right? They're very enterprise, and their divisions in many ways are competing for the same resource.
Man, it seems like though they have a golden opportunity in their hands because there is probably real utility to integrate this kind of stuff into Gmail, into Google Docs, into Sheets. I mean, real utility. Imagine, and I know this sounds kind of silly, but I would use this. Imagine if you could say to your Google Sheets program, I need you to create me a formula and a bar graph that takes this data and puts it together. And you don't know how to create that formula in Sheets, but the Gemini Bard thing does. And it just has a little prompt there, and you ask it. It uses the data in your sheet right there in real time. And it creates that. I think there is a massive opportunity to really create a moat around the Google products. If you can put stuff in Google Drive, you can put stuff in Sheets and Docs, and you can have stuff in email and all their other, and your meetings can be monitored by Google AI and transcribed, you could create a real moat. Because what I've been playing with this last week has been locally hosted large language models. And some of them let me point them at arbitrary data and URLs, and some of them don't for legal and moral reasons, they say. And man, I tell you what, the ones that let me point them at my own data source are infinitely more useful because I can start to interview them about the topic. and I make them. I'll give you an example. I pointed the Meta's Llama 2 uncensored model at
Llama red pajama. Sorry.
Yep. At Phoronix.com, and I told it to go back and crawl all of 2023. And then I could just sit there and ask it for a half hour various questions about Phoronix's 2023 coverage and the companies they talk about and the projects they talk about and when this came out and when this was covered. Like all of a sudden, that large language model is a complete topic expert on Phoronix.com. That when I'm trying to put together the biggest stories of 2023 for Linux Unplugged, that's massively useful. And Google could do that at a Google account scale. And now you maybe you're a Google Enterprise customer using Google Apps. All your enterprise docs are in there, your sheets are in there, your email are in there, your meetings are in there. Google's Gemini Bard thing could become a topic expert on your Google Workspace. Massively, massively useful. And they could be training on the back end with all of their resources. And then when you go into Gmail, no doubt they'll slap it right into everything, docs, everything. There'll be a little chat prompt. And I could say like, hey, when did Mike and I first talk about, doing Coder Radio or something? And it could come up and just, find the thread in a search that is actually useful. And they'll go at it from a search perspective and expand it from there. If they can get this thing off the ground, it feels like they have got a massive opportunity to build an even bigger moat around Workspace, but they just keep fumbling it. But do you see where this could be? And Microsoft has a similar opportunity here, but Google has a massive head start.
Yeah, the opportunities are huge, right? And whoever gets this integrated well with their existing suite is going to take a leadership position. It's just, I don't know. I'm sure I might regret this, but I would bet on Microsoft/OpenAI before Google, because it just seems like they're, I guess, a little hungrier, maybe.
Way hungrier. You saw how Satya navigated and negotiated that crazy OpenAI weekend. I mean, just seeing the execution there versus watching how Google has pathetically executed over a year, it is a stark contrast that Google has turned into Microsoft, and Microsoft has turned into something else, at least at the executive level. Yeah. All right. I just wanted to touch on that. I think it does look. I like Bard for a lot more things than I like ChatGPT these days. So I'm a little more bullish on the Google AI stuff than you are. But I think as far as executing in the marketplace, I agree. But then there's Apple. And over this last week, there's been a lot of speculation online, I think kind of kicked off by Robert Scoble, that Apple is probably going to end up being the winner of the consumer large language model products, because Apple will eventually release a model that runs local and natively on your iPhone and other M series chips. It'll look at your existing. They already do this, in a really great way, actually. If you use HomeKit video for your security cameras, and there's only a few like the Logitech Circle that you can put into HomeKit video, it uses your on-device face recognition information to identify people that it detects in the camera. So when my wife walks up to the studio, it says, Hadiya has arrived at the studio. That's really neat stuff. And so the speculation online has been that they'll spread this out across people's M devices. And we're seeing a hint with this in iOS 17. It says, quote, this is from Apple, some of their documentation for iOS 17, quote, using on-device machine learning, your iPhone creates personalized suggestions for moments for you to remember and write about based on your photos, music, workouts, and more. This is the new journal app. And their point is, and I, having played with a lot of these self-hosted large language model, think there is a lot of wood behind the light language model arrows that are a little more refined. You could run them on a small device like a Raspberry Pi or even a phone, especially a fast phone. And they're purpose-built, so they're lean and mean. And I think this is the future. Well, I mean, I think this is what 2024 is going to be big on. And I really do think Apple could have something here.
Maybe. The Apple has the whole strategy tax issue, though, right? Where they don't want to. I don't think Apple wants to. Well, it depends, right? If it's like an open source thing that you can modify, then yeah, I think they're a huge contender.
Well, and think about this. Like Apple could integrate this like Nextcloud has. Nextcloud has been way ahead of everybody on this. What Nextcloud has, a universal prompt you can bring up now. and you can say, in the middle of a Nextcloud talk chat, you can say, generate me an image that's this, that, and this. And it is using Stable Diffusion, and it just generates, it's kind of like what we do for GIF selection or GIF selection right now, where you go in there and you do a little search and you select the right little animation that represents, what you want to send back. That's going to be replaced by quick, stable image diffusion type stuff using accelerators on M-series platforms. So instead of some animated, guy nodding his head you've seen a million times, like Jack Black, you create something entirely new using on-device AI and then send that in messages. And it's just like one of the little apps in messages is like a Stable Diffusion generator. I mean, they'll call it something else like Magic Image Creator or something, right? But it'll be on any M-series platform. And it'll be the same thing for text. So maybe you're in Pages and you need to start a letter. Just like Nextcloud, when you're in the Nextcloud document editor, you need to start a letter. You say, all right, I'm trying to write a letter of resignation. I need you to help me get started. And it creates a blank letter of resignation, and then you fill it out, and boom, you're done. Because all of this stuff's open source. Apple just needs to integrate it and accelerate it. And they can just invoke this stuff in their existing applications. It's such low-hanging fruit that if they don't do this, it's negligence.
Yeah, it seems a little crazy not to take the swing.
Yeah, right? And then they could claim they're the first bringing these AI features on device to consumers. Man, if I were them, this is what the iPhone 16 and iOS 18 would be all about.
Yeah, they can bang their security drum because it's on device.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see, right? Somebody send this to Apple, because if they don't do this, they're missing out, because Nextcloud's kicking their butt right now. Nextcloud's doing this, right? I mean, it's totally possible. So it just needs to be done at a scale that can work with and optimize for Apple's devices too. And not to make getting these things down to a device that size trivial, but the Home Assistant community has done this. They have created language models now that are running on Raspberry Pis. They're not super fast, but it's happening on general compute devices. So I can only imagine on an Apple SoC. We'll see. Tailscale.com/coder. Head on over there, support the show, get it for free on 100 devices. Tailscale.com/coder. Well, the green bubble drama has gone to 11. This story is changing as we record right now on a Monday. Just last few days have been crazy. So this company created Beeper Mini. Beeper is this like all-in-one messenger application that I know my buddy Noah loves, and the idea is you can connect it to Telegram and Discord and Matrix and WhatsApp and Signal and all these different, and then you go to one app, Slack and et cetera. One app, boom, there's all your chats. Well, then Beeper split off this one dedicated app called Beeper Mini that was solely focused on running and compatibility with iMessage on Android. Beeper Mini was a dedicated app. I think it was paid. I never tried it. You run on Android, and you could participate in iMessage chats using your phone number, actually. That was on December 5th. It was announced and made available to all users. Quickly racked up 100,000 downloads. Became popular quick. And Beeper Mini didn't use a cloud server to let you use Apple services, which is how this has been done in the past, is some people would have a Mini that would get racked, probably running macOS and VMs, and run multiple customer accounts, and you would sign into your iCloud account on that Mini, and then it would capture the iMessages from the iMessage application in macOS and forward them to your application on Android. So they got rid of that method and somehow began talking directly to the iMessage servers. And that's when they launched Beeper Mini. Well, as you can imagine, Apple confirmed on Saturday night that it closed down the quote-unquote loophole that Beeper was using. And everybody thought Beeper was dead, Beeper Mini. This morning, as I went on air, Beeper has announced that they have revved their app again and got it working again. This time, you can't use your phone number. You have to use your full Apple ID, and you have to log in with your iCloud account. And it's not yet published in the Play Store, so you have to sideload it, although they're going to try to get it loaded in the Play Store. But it definitely takes away one of the big selling points that you didn't have to give it your Apple ID, but it gives you full interoperability with iMessage. And your good buddy, Elizabeth Warren, who is one of the biggest scam senators that I've ever seen in the United States Senate, and that is really quite a statement, and also one of the most ineffective legislators ever, is going after Apple, claiming that they're using their big tech monopoly to lock in profits by preventing Android users from using iMessage, and that this crackdown on Beeper is the latest example of their aggressive monopoly practices. It's quite the drama. And of course Apple's going to crack down on all of this. I'm guessing this is probably not the type of app you'd ever use either.
No, and I'm kind of surprised with Elizabeth Warren here because, I mean, it's a closed system. I don't really think that Apple has necessarily done anything wrong here, right? They never said iMessage was an open standard that anybody could use.
Yeah,
it's a selling feature for the app.
What is funny, Beeper has done this, and Liz Warren has picked up on the talking point as well. They're taking Apple's iMessage talking points and using it against them in a really clever little flip. They want to iMessage, like Apple tells us, is so secure. It's superior to standard text messaging. And that's one of the things that makes the iPhone a more secure, more private platform. And so they just want to bring that same security and privacy to other users that are chatting with iPhone users, but on non-iPhone platforms. You see, by taking Beeper away from Android users, they're making Android chat less secure. Because as Apple says, iMessage is a superior, more secure chat platform.
Yeah, but that's a meaningless argument, right? It's Apple's proprietary system that's a feature of their phones to sell their phones. They're going to get sued. It's going to be like SciStar was, the company down here that was making Hackintoshes.
Oh my God, I can't believe you remember. I was trying to remember their name so hard the other day. I bought their little USB dongle back in the day to turn my Dell into a Hackintosh.
Right. They were pretty cool, and they're going to get sued into oblivion, just like they did, just like SciStar did. So, yeah, it's kind of like this is the story that was everywhere that I was kind of surprised because we've all been to this play before. We bought the album, we sing the songs. You know, we get drunk at the bar and we're, going to the barricades against Imperial Apple. When in reality, in this case, Apple's just right. They're gonna drink these guys' milkshake.
I agree. And I think this pain is necessary. This green bubble drama, the green bubble embarrassment is the pain people need to switch to non-platform chat apps. What the hell else is going to get them to try something like Signal or Telegram or Simplex
Discord
or
WhatsApp
or it's pain. It's when the default stuff doesn't work. And I think, would be doing everybody a bit of service if we told them, don't use the built-in messenger on your phone. Just switch to something else.
Having said that, I love iMessage. It's really good.
Yeah,
so,
there's that.
I could give an analogy because I know some folks are going to push back here. Let's say you made a game, right? And you released it on iOS, but not Android, for whatever reason. And then somebody comes along and basically somehow ports your game or a decent facsimile of it. Wouldn't you be upset now? It's not that, they're expanding the player base to include Android. They're basically trying to take business away from you.
Yeah.
They're probably committing some sort of fraud. I mean, depending on how the Beeper Mini...
Yeah, how they did that reverse engineering. Yeah.
Yeah, that Computer Fraud and Abuse Act is really vague.
Yeah.
So...
just a side tangent. Liz Warren here, she sponsored 36 bills in the 118th Congress. 0 were passed. She sponsored 103 bills in the 117th Congress, which was 21-22. 0 were passed. 98 bills, 2019 to 20, 0 passed. 80 bills, 2017 to 18, 0 passed. 27 bills, 2015 to 16, 0 passed. In fact, I believe her record for passing bills is in the single digits. She has co-sponsored in the thousands, I believe almost 2,000, and the bills that have actually passed, very, very few. She's an interesting character because she wears the mask of a progressive, but she's actually very much a bankster wolf in sheep's clothing. And so, of course, she's taking all these opportunities to go after any tech monopoly that she can because that plays into her progressive brand. And she plays like she doesn't understand these things, but she has a team of advisors telling her what's going on. Anyways, my advice and I think Mike's is probably hold off on this beeper stuff for a bit. Let's see how this plays out. It's probably going to end up in more pain.
Yeah, they're going to get shut down. I mean, it's just, yeah.
And then one last little, I don't know if there's much for us to add here, but just I guess kind of a PSA. Apple and Google confirmed in the last week that the U.S. federal government, after being revealed by Oregon Senator Wyden, the U.S. government is monitoring push notifications on both iOS and Google Android. And I guess the justification is according to the federal government, these companies, Apple and Google, are operating as a, quote, digital post office for relaying these notifications. As a result, they have access
Wow.
Apple said in a statement that, quote, the federal government had prohibited us from sharing this information, i.e. we couldn't tell you they were doing this, but now that this has become public, we are updating our transparency reports to detail these kinds of requests. What I love about this is these transparency reports are not transparent at all. In fact,
or on their face. Yeah.
Right. There's lots of activity they can't put on there until you already know about it, and once you already know it's happening, they'll put it on the transparency report. Mwah. Beautiful.
What a beautiful prism we all get to see the light through. Yes, that's a deep cut for, yeah.
You know what? Yeah. So if you're using, your super secure chat app with your end-to-end encryption, but you're still getting things in push notification, guess what?
You've accomplished nothing.
Yep. Thank you to our members, CoderQA.co. You are the superheroes of our show. We really appreciate you. Things are super busy right now, but we're thinking about you all the time. You get an ad-free version of the show as a thank you. Whoa. If you'd like to become a member, CoderQA.co. And also thank you to our boosters who support each individual production. You can boost us by getting a new podcast app at podcastapps.com. Has it built right in. Or you top off something like Alby, getalby.com. You can get sats in there, use something like Strike, and then boost in. And I encourage you to do so because the holidays are coming up. We'll be stacking some boosts as we next episode is going to be a pre-record, so there will be none in there. Mm-hmm. So you can boost them in and we'll stack them for the following episode. But for this week, we do have a little handful of boosts, and our first one comes from Active Shadow, who sends in 20,000 sats and wants to touch on the dot file management topic. Please do. I very much would like to get into this. He says, I have found that Thoughtbot's RCM library is very easy and reliable when used with Git. Thoughtbot's RCM. All right, I'm going to look that up.
So am I, because I'm not familiar.
Yeah. I'm going to look that up, and I'm going to put that in the show notes. This is a management suite for dot files. It assumes that you have a separate dot file directory or are interested in creating one. Well, I do, and I am. Well, that's pretty great, actually.
Pretty nifty, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Active Shadow. Putting a link to that in the show notes if anybody else, boom, wants to take a look at that. Scott comes in with 4,444 sats. No message, just a boost. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Scott.
Raihan comes in with 4,506 sats. I bet those mean something. He says, following on the previous boost, I work for a transmission power company as an OT system that has an OT system running RHEL with a Windows environment with a bit of everything. It's got a SAN, there's an ESX machine in there, database, replication, development, all running on Ansible. He says, by the way, this is a postcode boost from Australia as well. I knew it. I knew that had to have something. I wonder if Google Maps will help me here. I'm going to bet not, but we'll see. Google Maps always thinks I'm talking about my general area. Okay, it says Morayfield. It says Morayfield. Is that right? Moray Field? Morayfield, Australia. Wow, maybe it actually got it. I have no idea. If I zoom out, it looks like it's just north of Brisbane. Brisbane, as they say down there. Let me know if we got it right. Thank you for boosting in and listening all the way down there. Etam comes in with 4,000 sats. First time booster. Heck yeah, dude. Congratulations. Appreciate that. Your show has been my favorite for years. Hopefully you'll hear more from me in the future. P.S. Can we get a keep the change, you filthy animal? It is the season. Oh, hold on. I'll get that. I do have that, actually. See if I have it loaded. Yeah, here we go. He says, P.S. Can we get a keep the change, you filthy animal jingle? Because 'tis the season, after all. You got it,
Keep
sir.
the change, you filthy animal.
There you go. Thank you very much. Overvalued comes in with 10,000 sats using Fountain, it looks like. I love the show, guys. First time booster. All right. Another one. I wanted to say happy holidays and ask if either of you still play the SNES, the Super Nintendo. My favorite games were Zelda, A Link to the Past, the first two Donkey Kong games, Super Mario World, and of course, Super Mario Kart. I still think they're some of the best games today. Mike, do you still play the SNES at all?
In a direct way. I have the Nintendo Online sub where you could play their official emulator on the Switch.
Which is actually pretty good.
It is actually pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have a physical hardware. I was a Sega kid. So I just want to say Sega does what Nintendo don't.
Oh, dude.
Ooh, they're throwing down the gauntlet.
Cuts.
Cuts. But yeah, no, I definitely do. Usually when, I think, what do they update it, like every month? The Nintendo Online stuff. I check in and see what they have added. It's kind of fun because I get to play things that I've missed, or at least try them out. And one like side benefit is most of the games on there are more or less kid appropriate. So
True. Yeah.
good for the little dude.
Yeah, and even then the graphics are so poor.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. I have to say the Nintendo Online thing is really sweet. I also have that. I echo everything you just said there. I'm a bit of a maniac. I also, of course, have the SNES and like those types of emulators on my phones. And then, of course, I have it on my Steam Deck, which I love the hell out of. And on my Steam Deck, I went on Amazon and I got one of them USB Super Nintendo knockoff controllers. It looks just like the SNES controller, but it just connects as a standard HID device.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I have one of those by the company 8-Bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have that connected to my deck, and then I put my deck on the TV, and I play that. And then the other thing I did, oh man, I wish I would have gotten the name. Maybe somebody will boost in the name of this thing. And then the ultimate experience is a few years ago. I went on eBay and I spent the big bucks, and I got myself a used Sony Triniton
Nice.
CRT.
See, that's what you really need. If you're not going to use an emulator that compensates for it, you need
Yeah.
that cathode ray tube.
And then I got myself the Super Nintendo, of course. And then this is the part I need the help with the name on. I got this cartridge that you put an SD card in, and you load the ROMs on that cartridge, on that SD card.
Oh, interesting.
And then you play it on the Super Nintendo. So it's like an SD card goes inside a Super Nintendo cartridge. You put the cartridge in the Super Nintendo. It boots up into this really janky, worse than DOS-like, worse than NCurse's UI, but you get all your games that you can fit on an SD card, and then you play it on the physical hardware. I mean, it's so cool. So I have like 100 games on this SD card that's just always in the Super Nintendo. So I'm never switching cartridges. It's always connected to the TV, so I can just sit down and play.
How's the fidelity of those games?
Oh, 100%. It's 100%.
Really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. 100. It's as good as... And then
awesome.
the other nice thing is, dude, is there's modded Mario ROMs out there. There's a whole community that has taken Super Mario World and Metroid and, like, redone them. Some of them are really crashy, but some of them are really great. So, yeah. Oh, man. I really like that setup. If anybody remembers that little cartridge I'm talking about, I would love to put a link to that in the show notes. Sneezy comes in with 17,735 sats. All right. He says, I've got some bacon for you guys. I think those recent Spotify layoffs were about AI. Just a few weeks after flexing their AI muscles with the new personalized magic of the Spotify Wrapped AI, the music giant took the axe to its workforce and laid off 17% of their employees. So, is AI the Christmas elf bringing new efficiencies, or is it a cyborg sent to terminate jobs?
You know, I could see the logic here. My kind of hesitance to jump on this bacon bandwagon is just the ridiculous amounts of money Spotify spent on podcasts would blow a hole in just about any, company of their size.
Yeah, they really were, and they went crazy with the hiring too. So they spent a ton of money, on their workforce in general, and spent a ton of money on acquiring podcast talent. So yeah, the cyborgs to terminate jobs. I don't know if it's either one of those.
Well, no, I will say that it's almost certain that if they're not doing this already, what they're going to do is like all the audiobook and like descriptions of things and,
yeah, and all the playlist generation.
All the playlist generation. It's going to be AI. Mm-hmm. And these jobs that have been lost are not coming back. Yeah. That's for sure.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep. Nice bacon, though, Sneezy. Thanks for bringing that. Appreciate
it's good stuff.
Dave Jones sends in 10,000 sats. He is the Pod Sage, and it's his weekly automated, quote, subscription donation. Thank you, Dave Jones. That brings us to 7 total boosters this week, and we stacked 70,685 sats. Thank you, everybody who supported this production. We will be stacking your boosts, so there'll be no boost next episode, but still send them in. You can send your holiday wishes because our next recording session, when we are recording the boosts, will be our holiday episodes. So holiday wishes, 2024 predictions, all that kind of stuff would be great topics for your boost and a nice way to send the show off into the holidays. And again, we'll have links to how to do that in the show notes. That's going to be at coder.show/548. Anywhere you want to send the people, Mr. Dominic?
Go watch Babylon 5.
Yeah, go, because we're going to be talking about that very soon. So go get yourself refreshed on the topic, because it's coming up on the show. It's coming up. Excited about that. I'm so excited, I'm like, my arms are flailing around in the studio. All right, links, that's on our website. RSS stuff, contact form, all that's coder.show. There's a whole series of podcasts over at JupiterBroadcasting.com. You're always welcome to go check that out. Shout out to our members at coderqa.co again. We really appreciate you. And you can join us for our last live stream of the year. That'll be next Monday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern over at jblive.tv. And it's in your time zone at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar. All right, thanks for listening, and we'll see you right back here next week. Thank you, Drew. All right. Nice. One down.
Nice.
Now we got to title this thing.
Yep. Let me just run to the Literal Coders room. They have me. I don't. They have me on some severe diuretics.
All right, you go take care of that.
Yeah.
I'll get the chat room. Oh my God, 3 titles. Well, go vote. You go take care of yourself.
I kind of like Don't Fight the Music.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I'll be right back. Give me like 2 minutes.
Raj. Don't Fight the Music might be it, guys. Linus Torvalds. Ruby people are strange. I have no idea what this clip is, but I just saw it on the soundboard.
The Ruby people, strange people, started using Git, and suddenly it just exploded.
That's the Ruby people. There you go. Strange people, huh? Well, they liked what you made, dude. That ain't so bad. All right, stand by. We're going to transition. It's going to get a little weird around here. Go vote in the chat room if you will. We're going to have another round. Coder.show/matrix. Oh, Don't Fight the Music's going to win by default with 3 votes. All right. Dun, dun, dun. All right, it's almost time for the next coder. Stand by. Wow, wow, wow. Wow, wow, wow. Okay. One more time. Get them files uploaded. Rawhide. Start that new project. Ba-ba-da. Ba-ba-da. It's happening. Yahoo.
Is naming Apple his top tech pick for 2024, citing iPhone growth, China resilience. He's also raising his price target to $250 from $240. Dan Ives is managing director of equity research at Wedbush Securities. Do I have it wrong, Dan? I mean, I've heard a lot of people kind of questioning Apple, which is a polite way of putting it lately, but not you.
I think it's been a hated stock this year. I mean, you know, if you look in terms of words about iPhone growth, China, that was really going to be the demise. And Cupertino, I actually think they're going into a renaissance of growth. In terms of what we're seeing on iPhone units, services now double digit. I think it's a get out the popcorn moment. It's now starting the next phase of the growth story. I think multiple expands. We think a $4 trillion market cap by the end of next year.
$4 trillion in market cap. How much of a gain would that be from where it is today? Is it over 3 today?
Yeah, so it's a little over 30%.
Yeah.
But Tyler, I think the big thing, it's really services. I mean, services we think is worth 1.5 to 1.6 trillion, still being massively underestimated by the bears in the street.
What about this iPhone 15? How hot a product is it? How much market penetration is it likely to experience in China over the next 12 months?
Well, I could tell you from our checks in Asia, even over the last 24, 48 hours, that there's been no cuts to supply chain. And that's important because it shows, I think, the China story is actually much more resilient than I think, even we thought. That's about 20% of the upgrades that are going to come out of China. There's 100 million iPhones based on our estimate in the window of an upgrade opportunity.
Yeah.
China's going to grow. And I think overall, this is actually firming out to be actually a really good holiday season, despite many yelling fire in a crowded theater.
Renaissance of growth in Cupertino. Not many people have been saying that, Dan.
Look, I think it's easy. Look, I think ultimately the New York City cab driver has been bearish on Apple. I mean, if you go into this year, it was iPhone growth slowing, the China worries. That's what was ultimately going to haunt the stock. I think many were really calling for a $2 trillion market cap. I think the reason we're here is Cook and that golden install base to about over 2 billion iOS devices worldwide, a massive install base in terms of upgrade opportunity. 25% have not upgraded their iPhone in 4+ years. That's the key, and that's ultimately why they continue to sit on the top of that mountain in big tech.
I was reading somewhere, I saw a headline somewhere, it probably was this morning, I've gotten to that age.
So he says Apple's going to be fine. Their install base has got to upgrade. What are they going to do, get an Android? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to do, get Android? Chat room is open. 549 is about to kick off.
Welcome to Tech News Briefing. It's Friday, December 8th. I'm Alex Osala for The Wall Street Journal. If you have an iPhone, chances are it was made in China. There, Apple has a vast network of suppliers it uses to manufacture its phones.
Oh, really?
Now, though, the company is planning a big change. More iPhone production may head to India. Apple and its suppliers aim to build more than 50 million iPhones in India annually within the next 2 to 3 years. Wall Street Journal South Asia Bureau Chief Tripti Lahiri is here to tell us why Apple is making the shift. So historically, Apple has manufactured its iPhones in China. What exactly is changing now?
So Apple is trying to move more of its production out of China and into other places. And one of those places is India. It's also a big country. It's trying to add a lot of manufacturing jobs. And Apple has steadily moved more of its production to India and is planning to move a lot more in coming years.
And is it just Apple, or is it also its suppliers that are making the shift?
So basically, when Apple makes that shift, it requires a whole ecosystem to move along with it. Apple's biggest suppliers, you might have heard of the name of Foxconn, that makes millions and millions of iPhones. So they're spearheading this production shift for Apple by setting up these mega plants in different parts of India.
What was appealing to Apple about making its iPhones in China in the first place?
It was just such a cost-effective way to do business. And people have said over and over again, there are a few places that could do what China did, which is manufacture lots and lots of things pretty well at a good cost and very efficiently.
When we talk about Apple and its suppliers shifting to India, what exactly is shifting?
So basically, we're talking about just these millions and millions of iPhones, let's say more than 200 million in any given year. A significant portion of those will not be made in China anymore. They will be made in India, and they won't be made just in India. And this is kind of important for India as well as for Apple. They won't just be made for Indian consumers. They will be shipped from factories in India to places around the world. So kind of mimicking what China has done for years. India is making about 15% of all of Apple's iPhones right now, but analysts who closely follow the company expect that to be 25% by 2025 and maybe go up even beyond that.
Why is Apple looking to make this shift, particularly now?
It's cheap.
So the pandemic highlighted a lot of issues with
sorry
having
about
no
that.
supply chain
You're fine.
too heavily concentrated.
I could tell
in
you
one
a fun story about softball-sized scrotum.
I'm watching a fun story about how Apple is moving as fast as possible all of their supply chain makers and stuff to India, so that way they can still avoid building in the United States. So,
You know,
it drives me crazy.
wait, didn't we just spend a shit ton of money?
Yeah.
To try to seduce them?
Yes. Yeah, we passed the CHIPS Act and the Inflation Reduction Act, both of which had billions of dollars. Yeah. Yep.
It's almost like it's the wages that are the problem.
It's almost like, and it's almost like the dollar is worth shit now. It's almost like the dollar's worth shit. And
Do you remember that really heinous story that we broke on the air that people called me super racist for?
Yeah,
But it
sure.
turned out I was
You were
super
right.
right about Disney.
Mm-hmm.
That they got their memos like that. Yeah, we're just fire all the the Anglo and black people and you just all the Americans really, and move everything to India. Like the memo literally said that. Like fuck these guys. Like it's
Yeah. I'm gonna crack the door for the dog. Hold on one sec.
That's fine.
Yep. All right, so I started the title bot
Capitals.
again. So we need people to bang suggest again.
Do I need to refresh this or are we
No,
good
you're
here?
good. You're good.
Get off my bridge.
That's right.
Oh, you're gonna. This is so. I have energy now. All right.
Oh
I,
boy.
Yes, I may be dosed, but
You may be you may be firing torpedoes and firing phasers.
see in Babylon Fine, it's just straight up guns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're just
yeah.
like, oh god. All right.
How can you be deaf with ears like that?
Okay. Here we go. Where's Coder? There's Coder. Oh, it's gonna be one of those. Okay. I'll hit record over here. Hello, Drew. Here we go for 5:49. Mr. Dominic, jump in at 4, please. 1, 2, 3, 4.
4.
All right. Good enough. Chat room, bang suggest, please. Woo! 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 Get the energy up. All right, here we go. This is Coder Radio, episode 549 for December 20th, 2024. Hey friend, happy holidays and welcome into Jupiter Broadcasting's weekly talk show, taking a pragmatic look at the art and the business, the software development, and the world of technology, over there organizing his Spotify playlist. It's our host, Mr. Dominic. Hey, Mike.
I use the unforgiving bundling power of Apple Music. Thank you very much.
It is so much worse. The Apple Music.
It does suck, though.
So
but
bad.
I kind of have to pay for it because I have this stupid.
Yeah. Same. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got to back up all my damn kids' devices and my own damn devices. So.
Yep.
And I got the dumb Apple Music, and it sucks. I mean, the audio quality is better than Spotify, so there's that. But.
Yeah, it's just the AI is ridiculous.
I think I just had Spotify on the mind because they admitted, just like we speculated, dude, on the show, that they have a sweetheart deal with Google. They pay no store fees. No fees. They just get it free.
I have to pat ours on the back a little bit here. For years, since 2012, we have been saying that this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There have to be sweetheart deals and backroom bullshit going on with all these app stores. And we got particularly me, got
conspiracy
just
theorist.
You're just
sour
jealous,
grapes. Yep.
You're blah, blah, blah. And it's like, now we have all these court cases. And yeah, from the jump, this shit was going on.
It just took us a decade to be validated. That's all.
Right, because the subpoenas had to start flying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. So, they get it for free.
Yeah.
They've also, both companies had put together a $50 million success fund, which I didn't look into what that was for, but God, it must be nice to have that kind of money. Yeah, you want to put together like a $50 million success fund? Yeah, what are we going to use it for? I don't know. Yeah, okay. Sounds good to me.
That sounds like co-marketing and
Yeah. You know, though, that they were going to Apple, and you know they were trying to get that same sweet deal from Uncle Cook, and he's like, get out of here. Get out of here with your free. Get out of here. You should be grateful that we'll let you play your music on our iPhone. Get out of here with your free.
Yes, Apple's attitude. A little tangent here. So for our sponsor Alderaan Games, I've been doing some iOS integration work with their Unreal game Path of Titans, and I had to go through this vision quest of the history of Apple's policies regarding in-app web browsers to do things like, in this case, OAuth.
I hope you had a guru to guide you through this.
I kind of had a guru, and that guru was Tim Cook. I feel like I knew this, but didn't internalize it emotionally, how much they hate the web.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's just ridiculous. Like, I can't remember the exact permission off the top of my head, but there's a completely unrelated permission to doing anything with a web browser. But if you take it, it restricts what you can do with regarding URL redirects for some reason.
Well, you got to be careful.
It's also like it's documented that it does that. It's not documented as to why. So
that's like,
what?
This is the rule, but we won't explain the rule to you.
Right. I feel like it's like any opportunity to have you not use an open standard and instead use the Apple proprietary thing, they're just going to take.
Well, yeah, one's easy to integrate, services, and one completely bypasses. It's just they want the users to have the best experience on the platform possible, Mike.
But it's like OAuth, right? It's like getting a redirect URL and parsing a string out of it as a token so you can then, log into your game. It's really not anything that would circumvent their in-app purchases, which I feel like we've pretty much proven. And thank you, Judge. Judge Daniels?
Yeah.
For getting Tim Cook to admit on the stand that why do we do this? It's our business model. It's how we monetize our IP.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if you're ever curious and you're not an iOS developer, go take some time and read some Stack Overflows or dev blogs on how ridiculously nerfed iOS Safari is for devs. It's sad. Anyway, it's not sad. Robes.
The Coda Robe's back. It's overpriced. Well, not intentionally. I mean, it's just, I think it's probably Joe Biden's fault. I was going to blame one individual. And then, the shipping's a lot. But I got a promo code where you can use, if you use the promo code SWIFT, as in Taylor or as in the development language, your choice,
Better be Taylor.
I'm not saying. It'll take $10 off, and then you can get one of these things that I'm never, ever going to make again for the rest of my life. So JupiterGarage.com.
He's not kidding. Get
yourself a robe. I got to get rid of these things because they're costing me just to keep them. And I don't know. You know, they're good. So everything's so expensive now. I guess proportionately, these don't seem as expensive as they did the first time. You know, like, things have just gotten really expensive. But the price of the Coda robe stayed the same, so everything else came up.
I will say the Coda robe is probably the best piece of merchandising we've ever done.
Oh, yeah.
In that it's awesome, but it's also the worst in that it doesn't make any money.
Yeah, and it's costing money now at this point to store it.
Yeah. And I remember when you did the first one, it was just a huge logistical pain in the ass.
Right, because that was right during the pandemic and the supply chain shutdown. Mm-hmm.
With that said, I wear my robe every day.
And so. I was, oh, God, bad timing. All right. So Defiant Place asks on Reddit, if it only takes a team of 10 a couple of months to make or clone like an Uber or DoorDash type app, then why does it require hundreds or even thousands of software engineers to keep it running and maintain it? So that's an interesting question. Why could 10 people clone an app, but it takes 1,000 people to maintain it at scale?
So I'm going to assume these numbers are all exaggerated because 1,000 seems like a lot.
Sure.
Well, one, it's very easy to write something slapdash with no regard for technical debt and just get it out the door, right? Duct tape together. Two, cloning an app is kind of easy because you have a spec that you can just download and be like, I'm cloning you. Maintenance? Well, maintenance is hard, right? Like, let's take the case of Uber. Well, Uber actually has a giant back-end service that has to run efficiently and reliably all the time.
In so many different locales with different legal structures and issues and yeah.
Well, if you've ever seen Super Pump, they just break the law anyway, so whatever. But also, I think what Defiant Place is really talking about on Reddit is more enterprise dev, and I can tell you the challenge with enterprise dev is never writing the app. It's always getting a clear spec that all the stakeholders, emphasis on all, will commit to and stick with and not basically change their mind.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's... And, like, what does maintain mean? Does maintain mean keep the servers up and just, like, update annually for iOS API changes?
No.
Or does maintain mean that, Claire from accounting has changed her mind for the 400th time since this app launched 2 days ago? And we're rewriting how we do authentication, but we still need to support the prior authentication scheme of, SAML. And yeah, I mean, I have an actual story here. I think I mentioned them before. I did a job for a very enterprisey, very large printer company that you've definitely heard of. And the app was a relatively small Ionic app that took 2 years or just shy of 2 years. The number of stakeholders started as like 5. And we ended up with like 40 people on Zoom calls.
Oh, my God.
And everybody had to have their little picadillos, so to speak. Literally, we spent more. I mean, it became a problem like justifying our invoices because we spent more time in meetings trying to suss out what the hell they were talking about.
You're touching on something that Topological Rabbit commented on Reddit that I thought was really good. At least it's up my alley. He says, something no one's touched upon yet. Corporate software development is astoundingly inefficient. See the business side of the business desperately wants software engineering to work like running a widget factory. You get estimates on how long it takes to build and assemble the molds, then you factor in how fast the machines run, how much material goes into each widget, and how long it takes to package them up and ship them out. Simple, predictable, plannable. Employees at the factory are easily replaceable cogs. Businesses love this model. Writing software, however, is not like operating a widget factory. It is much closer to solving a mathematical equation. It doesn't matter how simple or complicated it looks on the surface. The actual amount of work and the time that it will take to do that work is mostly unknowable until you've sat down and done it. And it takes a good mathematician or engineer for a developer to do that well. Businesses hate this model. They hate it so much, they just decided it's not true. So now software engineers are stuck in this insane model of development where everything has to be easily estimated out beforehand, estimated longer than it actually takes, and you're called bad at estimation. If you estimate shorter than it actually takes, you're incompetent at engineering. The only way to survive in this environment is to massively pad one's estimates and then only work on the tasks that are super tiny, focusing on the minutia at the expense of structure of the whole. This makes devs go at a snail's pace, and also I think a lot of those meetings do as well. That's my adding right there. And he adds, you got to run out of time. You got to have those padded estimations or you get called out as bad, and results in badly written nightmares of code bases, which is what you get. You get badly written code bases. So to do any real amount of work now requires huge teams that trudge along incredibly slowly. He says, yeah, I might be better.
Yeah. I mean, it's an unfortunate reality. And
software development in businesses might not, and the needs of a business are not always compatible in the way that they are structured.
Well, you could even take it a step further. Wow, English. The individual teams and stakeholders in the project may not be aligned, which in the case I'm thinking of is basically what the problem was. Is that what was better, or what the kind of accounting money people felt would be, honestly, okay, the whole point of the app was to cut the overtime of the maintenance technicians, right? Like, they wouldn't say it like that. They're like, we're going to improve efficiency, but it was to fuck over the maintenance technicians.
Yeah.
And the maintenance department, who is like a core of their business, was very resistant to that for some reason. So, they kept having exceptions like, oh, but we can't really automate that. We do need to do a second check. It's
tapping the brakes every chance they can.
Well, right, and raising objections, and the accounting people who are paying the bill are getting frustrated because, it's enterprise software kind of sucks in a lot of ways. I mean, we have so many. I mean, if you go through the back catalog, there's so many stories. But I mean, the other thing that can happen on another project is literally the person who's championing the project goes on maternity leave, and then they kill the project while she's gone. Something that actually happened, right? So it's kind of like when you're dealing in the enterprise, you have to understand when if you're going to pad your estimate, you need to have a whole section for political nonsense, because there's gonna be a lot of it.
Alderon.games/coder. Head on over there, apply for a great remote job. Self-publishing game studio. Deets in the full episode, and of course at alderon.games/coder. Well, I had to set this story aside for you.
No, I love it.
This individual claims to have hacked the online Magic the Gathering arena for a 100% win rate. I guess they looked into it, and they decided to focus on network communication and the client-side code. They discovered that the game runs a local bot client called Sparky for tutorials, bot matches, and it shares the same connection as the player and the same credentials to the server as the player, this little Sparky bot. He used Reflection to connect to a bot. He used Reflection. I guess it's a framework to basically stand up a bot that he could control. Using that same authentication framework, whole thing's a .NET app, which he's basically taken apart. Figured out how to do that, and the game server doesn't differentiate between the player and a bot using the same client ID. And so the author was able to essentially create what he called InstaWin code. He'd connect a bot to both seats in a regular match, and then he'd be able to, I don't know exactly how the game works, but he'd essentially be able to prompt an immediate concession from an opponent, and then he would essentially get rewards for winning against a human opponent by doing this, and would essentially stack the winnings for the game. And then I guess he's now notified the server operators, and they have patched this, but it was pretty fascinating. If you go into the blog post, he talks about how elated he was when he's like, oh, it's a .NET app. Well, let me just pull this apart. He says, in the end, most of it was just accessing in-game memory objects to get all the information I needed to know what game I'm currently connected to in matchmaking. Then I use that information to connect the bot to the game. Once I have all the info, the code figures out the opponent's seat based off of my own, creates and connects the bot, adds some spice, and immediately makes the bot concede. I love this. How horrible and great is this at the same time? And he said it was actually initially more tricky than he expected because a lot of the decision making is happening server side. You know, like the shuffling of the cards and a lot of that, and then it just tells the client the results. A lot of times when you're hacking a game, like say like a first-person shooter, a lot of the heavy lifting is being done on the client side. And so you can manipulate that client side. But in the case of this game, the heavy lifting is actually being done server side. So he had to come at it from a client and network vulnerability standpoint when he realized he could essentially create his own bot based off of their Sparky bot. It really tickles me.
I love this. I mean, you know what? It's great. I don't think he did the right thing and notified them, and they shut that shit down pretty quickly. I think Arena is actually a Unity C# app.
Aha, of course, sure.
So, yeah, there you go. Good old magic.
Yeah, nice little way to ship it on there. I'll put that in the show notes. I'll put that in the show notes if you want to read the entire story, because it's a nice little read. Could be a good little escape from the bad news. But speaking of hacking, today's story is really a doozy as we go on the air, and I wanted to get your take on this. I'll play a clip so that we don't have to be the ones to set it up, and then we can chat about it.
Post reveals hackers affiliated with China's People's Liberation Army have infiltrated critical services here in the U.S.
Alexandra Hoff joins us now from our nation's capital. Alex, this is not good.
No, it's not. I mean, this infiltration appears to be part of a broader effort to insert chaos into our logistical systems. The information collected could then be weaponized if the U.S. and China were to become engaged directly in the Pacific. According to reporting from the Washington Post citing multiple U.S. and industry security officials, China's cyber army is invading critical U.S. services, like an attempt to break into the system behind Texas's independent power grid. Other victims include a water utility in Hawaii, a West Coast port, and at least one oil and gas pipeline, according to that report you're seeing there. Brendan Wells, executive director of the Department of Homeland Security Cybersecurity Agency, told the Washington Post this, quote, "It is very clear that Chinese attempts to compromise critical infrastructure are in part to pre-position themselves to be able to disrupt or destroy that critical infrastructure in the event of a conflict, to either prevent the United States from being able to project power into Asia or to cause societal chaos inside the United States to affect our decision-making around a crisis." The report notes that over the past year, hackers affiliated with the People's Liberation Army in China have accessed the computer systems of about 24 critical entities.
That's right, to cause chaos. This is coming today as we record from the Washington Post. They say China's cyber army, I can't believe we're calling it that, has invaded multiple U.S. critical services. And officials tell this national security reporter at the Washington Post that the intrusions are part of a broader effort to develop ways to sow panic and chaos and snarl logistics in the event of a U.S.-China conflict in the Pacific. I don't know what it is, but I don't buy any of this. I do grant you there's definitely software out there that's unpatched that shouldn't be connected to the internet. But this idea that chaos I'm not seeing the threat unless we have a lot more things like pumps and whatnot connected to the internet than I thought we did. But this is coming up over and over again, and it's starting to sound kind of serious. They're starting to name individual facilities. And the officials said that they have burrowed into, quote, 24 targets over the past year.
I mean, yeah, I would say, of course, it's happening, right? The curious thing is, why is it being shared? Because it would be a little naive to say that everybody's hacking everybody is the reality.
Right. And I actually think attribution is a lot more difficult. And I have felt this way for a decade. I feel like we as consumers have failed to demand proper attribution, and I think the press has failed to demand it, and I think the people that make these proclamations, like the Washington Post and federal government officials, they have never demonstrated proper attribution. We know, thanks to the Snowden leaks, that as of years ago, the CIA was aware of multiple techniques to make it look like they were coming from any country they wanted. So it's probable that every other nation state also is aware of that type of technology, and anybody that knows about VPNs. So I think we have to remain extremely skeptical of these types of stories, because this is a fantastic way to really scare the crap out of everyone about technology, which is one of our favorite things to do these days, is how scary is it, how fast is it becoming scarier, and how much more should I worry? Those are generally the questions.
And how quickly should we pass legislation focused on, are you ready for our buzzword of the year? And probably next year? Safety.
Absolutely. Good point. Absolutely.
I mean, that to me, see, maybe I'm frying too much gator bacon here. To me, all this says is get scared. Don't question our legislation. Let's regulate everything.
You need the politicians to save you from the evil technological cyber pandemic.
But you know what didn't pass? You know what didn't pass?
What?
My man Chuck Schumer's UFO disclosure bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm telling you. Have you seen the X-Files? Because I'm not convinced that there's not some guy smoking, morally cigarettes, if they even make those anymore, in some room being like, just tell them China did it. We'll shut them up.
You know what? I'm more worried about strange UFOs than I am about China hackers shutting down water pumps.
I'm worried about old patrician white guys who are still alive smoking that work at the Pentagon than I am about any of this, really.
You solve it by disconnecting this equipment from the internet. Number
this
one,
shouldn't be on the internet.
Nope.
And if your power plant is
and you could have backup gear. Same with ransomware. If you're concerned about ransomware attacks, get your data backed up, right?
But you have things like operational security, background checks for a reason, right? Like the way this would happen. I mean, do we have to go back to Stuxnet, right, where basically you just like flip somebody inside of the the facility?
Iranian government, they go inside there. They manage to get malware passed through an air gap system, and then the centrifuges for these reactors were set to spin off kilter a little bit, and it destroyed malware created by the Israel government, the U.S. government, and some other Five Eyes nations. Destroyed these centrifuges through malware.
I mean, if you really want to play like the James Bond, John le Carre game here, what we've so far been able to prove is it's less Chinese hackers and more beautiful Chinese and Russian women that congressmen just seem to fucking love for some reason.
They sure do.
Like if you're a U.S. congressman and you are, this is a little off wokeness, but let's say you're from like Tennessee. Yeah, you're like a white good old boy. And a beautiful Asian woman walks up to you. You should be suspicious. If a woman named Tatiana walks up to you, you should be suspicious, right? Doesn't mean she's necessarily a spy, but I don't know, Matt Gaetz, what do you think? I mean, I'm just saying, like, how about the one who's now serving in the Russian parliament?
Yeah, there's a couple. It's crazy.
History hasn't changed since even before Rome. More secrets were lost on pillows than are ever going to be lost by hacking. I'm sorry, but I'm worried about.
Though. That is way more of a risk than the Chinese hackers.
Yeah, it's So if you want to play like armchair M over here, then that's like scan the Republican National Convention and the Democratic Convention and say, wow, there's some very attractive young women here from Asia. That's a problem, right? Like let's go interview them and make sure they're not spies.
And what's crazy is they don't get censured. They don't get in trouble for it. It just like it's like a punchline, and that's it. Even though they're like now like in the case of that one gal, she's literally working for the Russian government.
She ran for the Duma on the platform of I was a very effective spy.
And she snuck out, hightailed it out of the country like when her cover was blown, like from a spy novel.
Yeah, it's one, and there was Rupert Murdoch's ex-wife, Wendy Dang, almost certainly a Chinese spy. Yeah. Although the irony is there's probably some really good-hearted FBI agent somewhere who really wants to bust this up and like do the right thing that was told by his supervisor, you can't just look for attractive Asian women at the political conventions. That's racial profiling.
I guess part of me is worried that this sort of like Chinese hacker fear stuff is going to be used to do more shitification of the tech industry. Right.
Yeah, it's going to be used for surveillance and to pass insanely Big Brother
licenses,
legislation. Yeah.
things that are going to slow down the innovation and development and just create it into basically the next auto industry. They're going to try to turn Silicon Valley into Detroit.
Yeah, Magnolia Mayhem is right. They did just catch one that was just revealed to be a spy. It happens all the time.
Yeah, Fang Fang was another one. Yep.
Yep. Meanwhile, we have a senator who had to be told to sit down by Bernie Sanders because he wanted to get in a fist fight with the guy from the Teamsters.
Right.
If I'm just saying, Chinese and Russian intelligence operatives, that guy looks like a pretty easy target.
You know what they should do is every segment they're going to run about Chinese hackers or whatever, AI tech scare, scrap it and run a segment about the deficit and run a segment about the budget and run a segment about the debt because we are so screwed. It should be the number one issue of this election.
Chris,
and instead we scare ourselves about these non-issues.
You haven't heard of the gospel of modern monetary policy,
Oh, yeah,
or as I call it, Candyland.
Yeah, 2024 is going to be wild, isn't it?
2024 is. I know we need to keep advertisers, but we have to, if Trump and Biden do a debate, we have to do another special. We can call it Grumpy Old Man.
I could almost just say yes to that because I'm so sure it's not going to happen that I don't think.
If you saw the Republicans debating, Trump is just going to literally walk in. And it's like, yeah.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Here we are because the Republican debates are over. Who would have thought that the actual smart play was to skip the debates? That seemed like such an unthinkable move at the beginning of all this, and now watching what an absolute crap fair these debates have been, I actually think the smarter play was just to skip them. He won by not attending the debates.
Well, I feel like it's like, don't hang out at the bar with people to be jackasses.
Yeah.
It's I mean, Nikki Haley's not terrible, but it wasn't a good showing for any of them.
Now, I feel like, just looking at it from where are the opportunities here, I think, again, what benefits from a lot of this stuff that we're talking about, the direction a lot of this is going, is self-hosting, running your own infrastructure again as a business or as a home labber. Like, I feel like there's just more and more reasons. Like when we talk about push notifications getting surveilled, when we talk about all of these little encroachments of enshittification, licensing, regulation, etc., it feels like the last kind of bastion of the original internet where things are under your control and your data is private and you're not getting mined is just going to be self-hosted stuff, home lab stuff or business on-premise stuff.
It seems almost certain. Just a real-time update. Apparently, MiniBeep, the Android app that does iMessage, came online literally as we've been recording these two shows.
Yeah.
So they're back
know.
for now.
I know.
Until Uncle Tim swings that beautiful, beautiful banhammer again.
Yep. It's crazy, isn't it?
Why can't never mind. We'll see. I have a theory that they're doing this for publicity and know they're going to get sued into oblivion. But
I like that. It's not quite bacon yet. That's just probably some nice, tasty ham.
The gator is still fermenting, right? We're still curing it, rather.
Oh, not that button.
Wrong button.
Tailscale.com/code or go get it for free on 100 devices and have your own private internet. Get away from the shenanigans. Tailscale.com/coder. Well, Slack ran a big old survey. They say based on responses from more than 10,000 quote desk workers around the globe, they have determined that there is a surprising connection between after-hours work and decreased productivity. And they say, Slack tells us, that we should use this data to, quote, structure the workday to maximize productivity and strengthen employee well-being and satisfaction. The key learnings included employees who log off at the end of the workday register a 20% higher productivity scores than those who felt obligated to work after hours. Employees who took time for breaks during the workday also had better productivity on average. Desk workers say the ideal amount of focus time was around 4 hours a day. And more than 2 hours a day in a meeting is a tipping point at which the majority of the workers felt overburdened by meetings. So more than 2 hours of meetings a day was a tipping point. 3 out of every 4, quote, desk worker reported working in the 3 to 6 p.m. time frame, but only 1 in 4 considered those hours highly productive. Employees who felt obligated to work after hours registered 20% lower productivity scores than those who logged off at the end of the standard workday. They also reported 2.1 times worse related work stress, 1.7 times lower satisfaction with their overall working environment, and 2 times greater burnout. Find any of this to be actually insightful? I'm not buying that there isn't a direct equivalent to working late and lower productivity, because there are times when you work late, at least for myself, and it is exponentially more productive than I was during the day.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Bell Labs lesson, right? Bell Labs invented a lot of the stuff we still use, working 9 to 5, with well-defined specs and months of actually, waterfall planning. I just don't think we live in that world anymore. We don't, right? We live in a world of, premature optimization, of offshoring, of companies trying any way they can to cut wages. I would also wonder if Slack has a major issue. Do they not do the death march? I feel like they would.
Yeah, especially like after Teams came out and they felt like their entire existence was under threat. You're telling me they didn't grind a bit?
I mean, this. I would say yes. Sustained long days don't work.
Right, but forced, non-negotiable. You got to work late and you got to do that all the time. That's bad. Of course, that's going to lead to worse productivity. That's obvious.
Yeah, it's.
I think what this report tries to paint is this picture of no more than 2 hours of meetings a day, and do your work in the 9 to 5 window, and you'll be the most productive. And when you go outside that window, your productivity starts to drop off.
Right, but it's not necessarily negative.
Well,
right?
They say it's a 20% reduction in productivity.
For the hours after 5.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not advocating for death marches here and all-nighters. This feels like the kind of thing that's easy to say and gets you a lot of clicks, and people will talk about on like Slate Money or whatever, or Planet Money rather, on NPR. But it doesn't jive with my understanding of reality.
I think it makes. I think it also it's totally going to be dependent on the work. A developer, I think, or maybe a creative person who writes, is often going to find a burst of productivity when it's quiet and other people aren't asking them things.
When there's
constantly.
no kiddos running around or if you work from home.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So to me, it felt kind of out of date, out of touch, and it felt odd coming from a company like Slack, who maybe they're trying to counter this image, but like, you're the people that enabled remote work. You're the people that enabled, we thought it was bad with email and always being reachable after hours, but Slack took it to the next level.
The boss can send push notifications to your phone at all times. Right?
Yeah.
I
think it's maybe just about branded image than anything else.
This feels like a clever thing someone in marketing wrote, which fair enough, right? That's their job.
I'll put a link in the notes though, because if this registers with you, listener, and you can use it to advocate for something in your business, go for it. You know what? Go for it. All right. It's time. Beam it in. Let's bring it in.
Throw down.
Is Babylon 5 at its core a better show than Star Trek Deep Space Nine? That's the question. We're not going to go franchise versus franchise, right? Or do you want to
steel man that? It's Deep Space Nine, okay.
Or do you want to go all Star Trek? I just thought it's sort of like an impossible fight when you go against 50 years of a franchise that has a cultural impact.
I'll go Deep Space Nine. I think that gives you a hard edge, but I'll go Deep Space Nine. Okay.
All right. So
we should probably premise this, right? For folks who don't know, the reason it's Deep Space Nine is Babylon 5 is, in fact, there was a lawsuit about this, is a show where they're on a space station, pretty much in hostile territory, right? They're pretty close. Where Deep Space Nine is also a show where they're on a space station. There's like a wormhole that leads directly to hostile territory.
Both shows have a war story to them.
There's a war story. There's shifting alliances. There's factions. I guess they would really be called races that are kind of neutral, but kind of not. right? I'm thinking of our homies, the Bajorans on Deep Space Nine.
Ferengis.
And yeah, well, the Ferengis are great. I gotta tell you. That's why you're gonna win, because I you know what? I love the Ferengi.
Yeah,
I have a
but-
copy of the Rules of Acquisition.
Counterpoint.
that I
Oh, you
read
do?
every night.
Okay, good. Counterpoint, though, Deep Space Nine has Bajorans in it as well. So kind of neutralizes some of the positive of the Ferengis.
Bajorans are confusing.
They're the worst.
They feel like oh, it's probably not the right time to say this, but they feel like Eastern European freedom fighters. But then sometimes they feel like weird monks. So,
You know, here's my take. Here's my take. Babylon is, unfortunately, it's a little too cringe and it doesn't hold up. Especially season 1. It is really, really rough, to the point where the community has had to come up with like season 1 guides. Like there's one in this thread I'm going to link where it has a do it in 5 episodes. So that way you can avoid the pain of season 1. And then if you can really stomach it, they have 5 add-in episodes that you should slot in. And the thing that makes these add-in episodes good is they have Star Trek actors in them.
oh, that is a fair point. There's quite a lot of crossover actors.
Yeah. And so it really feels like when I watched as much as I could, the acting was so hit and miss. It felt disorganized.
Well, this is fair, right? So Babylon 5, especially season 1, was super low budget. It actually almost didn't get aired for just reasons of like being untested. Also, I'd even add to the cringe. We know I'm not a woke warrior here, but man, some of the stuff in season 1 of Babylon 5 is more questionable than the DS9 stuff. It also doesn't help that they had to change the captain because the dude had a mental breakdown.
Man, you are selling me on this right now, I gotta say.
No, it's see. Okay, this is the thing about Babylon 5, right? It's like Doctor Who. Well, especially like, you know, old Doctor Who, or like I would say like Eccleston Doctor Who. It basically sucks if you're expecting like good graphics and a budget, and it not to be kind of up its own ass a little bit. I should not be their lawyer.
No, I follow what you're saying, though. It's like Star Trek, the original series 2, at its first pass is kind of campy.
Right.
It's hard to get, like, it's easy to bounce right off it because of the production of the 60s, some of the acting, the campiness of the effects.
Sexism.
Yeah, right. But if you kind of listen for the message underneath and you actually follow the story, like, oh, this is actually some pretty good stuff.
Well, it's the same thing, but like, you know, it's Babylon 5 is, I would say, cringe in the way that the Next Generation season 1 is like super preachy and cringe, right? It's like, you know, Picard's your dad. He's going to tell you why you're wrong and how you could be better. And, you know, don't you want to live up to daddy's ideals and be a better man kind of thing? But I don't know. It gets better. Like, so, okay, the thing I like about Babylon 5, let's do something positive. The humans suck. Like, in many respects, Earth is just the bad guy. Would you agree to that, or?
Well, I don't know if I've seen enough to agree, but that is this general sense I was getting, is that the humans are some of the most flawed characters. Like, in contrast to Star Trek, where generally it's like bad guy alien of the week, or if you're going to have a bad human, it's maybe the admiral is an evil admiral, but otherwise all the humans tend to be pretty good, and the Federation tends to be pretty positive and pretty good. Whereas in Babylon 5, it's like all our flawed nature came with us into space.
In Babylon 5, this is not that big of a spoiler. In Babylon 5, in like the second or third season, Babylon 5 itself breaks away from Earth because they become Nazis. And there's like a whole like underground Nazi, basically the SS, officers that are still aligned with that. And it's also, it should be noted, the humans are incredibly weak compared to, I would say, their closest cousins, right? The Minbari. The whole show opens with them losing a war to the Minbari, even though the Minbari technically surrender, but that's just because they have weird religious reasons to not want to kill all the humans, which they totally could have. They were right there. In fact, there's a number of battles where like the Earth forces get uppity and think they're going to step to Babylon 5, and the Minbari just like bitch slap them down and blow up a bunch of ships. just the technological imbalance is kind of crazy. Where the Federation is always like, let's take the dilithium crystals and hook them up to our jailbroken iPhone, and it's gonna work because I'm Captain Kirk and I'm amazing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I think that sounds what you're describing like a more modern television show, which is kind of ironic since
But it's not modern. It's so weird. It's like it in fact, in the ways it's unmodern are like the 90s was a weird time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess I forgot just like how important shoulder pads were.
Oh my God, the shoulder pads.
Yeah, it's like
like
how do you fight in something where you can't move your arms?
I can't. It's so funny you brought that up because this was what I was talking to my wife about last night. It's like I'm really struggling to understand what shoulder pads are all about. Like what?
Especially on women.
Yeah,
really,
absolutely. Yeah, I guess it's most noticeable, but yeah, I guess some men probably have them too.
Well, and like the alien women don't wear them, so like they're supposed to be attractive, but I'm like, well, if these like human women weren't dressed like the Terminator, it would.
Yeah. You know what I like though about, so if you can set aside the bad CG and the campiness, this is the same for Star Trek, the original series too. What I do like about it is like this, like low brainwave style of entertainment that is, I can kind of recuperate and watch TV and take this in a way that it isn't newsy. So it's not current events.
No, it's not Discovery.
And it's not Discovery. It's because it's also the 90s. It's more remote and more removed. I've noticed this with also watching Who's the Boss, and I rewatched Roseanne and Home Improvement. I've watched a little bit, and these are shows from the 90s, and it's like because it's further away. It doesn't matter. It's already done. It's already been settled. It just doesn't really matter, and the combination of it not being about current events, not having current cultural references, and being so far removed in the past, it's like my lizard brain shuts down, and it's a very meditative kind of TV watching. And I think it's great to work to. That's why I like the stuff that has multiple seasons, and I think it's great to just sort of chill out in the evening sometimes. So you've made a horrible case. I mean, just an absolute horrible case for the show.
I should be disbarred. It was really bad.
What I am going to do is I'm going to follow this season 1, do it in a few episodes guide just to get through season 1. And then I think, because it sounds like, so the way Babylon 5 seemed like it would progress is it would tighten up as it went on. And that I had to slog through kind of like meeting the characters, understand like the kind of like villain of the week style of the first season would kind of.
Season 1 is very villain of the week.
Yeah, and but that you get little character developments and traits that might like, so it's like I know intellectually that I should just bank that season and just put up with it, but I can't do that until I'm invested in the show.
Not to further screw my case over. The problem is once you hit like season 3 and 4, the whole this is all done and dusted, it's eerily relevant now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where I think Babylon 5 gets good because and I bet in the 90s it seemed super outlandish the way the plot goes, which I'm not going to spoil, but it's basically now you have the quote good guys are like, we need to control the distribution of information because these poor saps will get tricked. And the quote bad guys are like, chaos is great. Let everything roll and blah, blah, blah. Whoever wins, wins.
Wow, that sounds very topical, actually.
It's eerie.
Wow.
Like the human stuff is really eerie. And I would say Babylon 5 is a show about humans written by people who wish aliens would come and like be our nannies and bitch slap us into getting our shit together.
Straighten us out.
Right, where DS9 is like, I love DS9. See, this is the problem. I love them both. I think so. The argument's lost, right? DS9 is a better show.
Oh, there it is.
But DS9 is only better because it was willing to break away from a lot of the Trek tropes.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I don't know how much. I mean, it's 1992. How much? Sisko is like. We know my love of Captain Lorca. Sisko does some heinous shit in there, right? He's damn.
Yep.
He's really fighting a war, and he's not like giving you a civics lecture the whole time.
Yeah, or the time he's Javert and he goes and he throws an acid torpedo into the atmosphere of one of the Maquis safeholds.
The old chemical warfare.
Yeah.
How about when he knowingly allows an assassination to take place and helps it along just to manipulate the Romulans into helping right?
And he'd do it again.
And he'd do it again, right? Yep. He even says he breaks the fourth wall. He's like, and I do it again.
Yep.
Like that. See, the problem is all these sci-fi shows, especially like TNG, they get way too... I don't even know. I'm trying to think of a politician that's that idealistic, and there's no such creature.
Well, I think that's kind of the appeal of the Star Trek brand a bit, is that it's a positive, well, it used to be a positive kind of thing. Things are going to work out. We're going to be pretty chill in space. We're going to have some great tech. And the people that end up running things are actually pretty moral people with good character. Like, that sounds great, right? And I think that was the Roddenberry pitch.
I see we're back in Candyland.
Yeah, well, but, it's all fantasy anyway, so why not sit back and have something that's...
Yeah, Babylon 5 is the exact opposite.
Right.
They suck as much as you think they do.
Well,
right?
there's a place for that, too. There is.
Although I will say, if you lose Quark's bar, DS9 is a much shittier show.
Yeah. You lose Quark's bar.
You need the Ferengi.
Yep. Yeah. Well, like the later seasons, this is my old go-to. They brought an old Vic Fontaine, and you went to Quark's a lot less, and I think the show wasn't as great.
I hate Vic Fontaine.
Oh, I hate him so much.
It's so bad.
Mike, how long ago when did Deep Space Nine? Deep Space, I'm going to look this up, okay? I'm going to look this up, Mike. I'm going to look this up. Because so Deep Space Nine, when was it on the air, huh?
It was 90...
93 is when it went on the air. First episode was in 93. So then it went for 7 years. Okay. Can I tell you something? I am still angry about Vic Fontaine. I mean, I am still, right now, getting angry. I mean, I do have all his music. Thanks to Wes, though.
Of course you do. This guy.
That's right. Come on in and play on the holiday.
I want to pseudo RMR this dude so hard you have no idea.
Let's fly away.
It's just they turned my space station into a karaoke bar, and I wasn't there for it.
Well, not only that, like the idea that like the bar, which is like the real only social place on the station, would be a place that people would hang out and make deals, and Quark would overhear and occasionally decide to tip off, these officers, right, Cisco
or try to get in on the action,
or most of the time try to get a cut of that shit.
Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense of how that would actually work, right? It felt like Panama in the middle of the, when it was the city of spies.
Right. It was such
Vic Fontaine is just garbage.
So, yeah, they had both shows have their highs and their lows, I suppose.
Okay, so let's sum up. Babylon 5, production values, first season, terrible. Bajorans, awful.
Yeah.
Quark, great. Vic Fontaine, delete him.
Gul Dukat is a great villain, though.
Oh, Gul Dukat is my homeboy, even though you want to punch him in the face.
Well, what about Kai Wynn? I mean, that actress made me...
Kai Wynn is good.
I hated Kai Wynn. She really nailed that. That actress really nailed it.
But she nailed the you want to choke her to death thing.
Yeah.
And how could we forget our innocent Taylor, who's straight up seriously a Taylor and not something else?
No, just a simple
Taylor.
Simple Taylor. You know what I did, though? I went ahead and I got the DVD set. I'm going to rip it. Babylon 5. I'm going to rip it. I'm going to watch it.
I didn't even know they still sold it.
Oh, yeah. I found it on Amazon. Found it used on Amazon. I don't know. We'll see how it arrives. But
I'm going to tell you, it's definitely something, just...
But I've just recently been using an old laptop that's got a DVD drive in it, and I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it old school, like the 90s. I'm going to rip it using Handbrake. Well, I'm going to
I was just there using Handbrake.
Yeah, I'm going to use Handbrake, and there's another, I forget the name, Make MKV. Anyways, it's going to be great. It's going to be fun.
I will say Babylon 5, pay attention to the intros. They change it every season, and the intros are really good.
Oh, that's nice.
Where they somehow put all their effort into the intro sequence.
So there's one story I just want to kind of just sprinkle out there real quick before we move on. We never really talked about Neuralink starting human trials, which happened this year, a couple of months ago. And it's going to use a robot to surgically place a brain-computer interface into a human patient. It's going to be pretty basic initially. They're going to look at controlling devices for people that have disabilities and things like that. But ultimately, they want to put it on the network, give you the ability to control a mouse and a keyboard and interface with a computer. So We're stacking the holiday boost, and I wanted some 2024 predictions around this. Where do you think, dear audience, Neuralink is going? And what if you took two trends as we kind of coast into 2024 that are happening right now at the end of 2023? What if you took your large language models like your ChatGPT, your open AI API type stuff, and you took Neuralink and you had the two connected? What if Neuralink had a plugin for ChatGPT where you could think and access information? I asked Bard about this. Besides real-time info, which seems obvious, it said, Bard would love to have the brain signals. Decoding brain signals would offer completely new ways for humans to interact with Bard, Bard writes. Imagine controlling Bard's functions or providing input directly through thoughts and emotions. This could revolutionize human-computer interaction, making it more neural and intuitive. Bard went on to say there'd be cognitive enhancements as well, like memory augmentation. Neuralink could potentially augment Bard's memory capabilities, allowing me to access, processes, and vast amounts of information more efficiently. This could lead to significantly improved performance in tasks like summarization, question answering, and knowledge extraction. And one last one that Bard thought would be pretty neat, it's at enhanced learning. Bard said Neuralink might be able to access my learning processes by allowing it to directly access and process information from the human brain. This could lead to breakthroughs in areas like artificial general intelligence and cognitive science. Bard's very bullish on Neuralink integration.
I have two words for you.
Yeah.
Resistance is futile.
I know, right? So, I mean, if you got, I would love it if you got it. If you got any predictions where this kind of stuff goes, if Neuralink's going to be a real product, anything going on in 2024, boost it in.
If you have any Borg clips you'd like to send us or Cybermen,
Yeah.
they seem very relevant.
We
all
could
of a
use some
sudden.
Borg clips or a Terminator clip.
Well,
Yeah.
I do love the Governator.
Yeah.
I just bought his book. I can't wait to read it.
Really?
I'm
I've heard
a
that's actually
huge-
fascinating, and that it's also, it ends up being a little sad too. So prepare yourself for that.
You know what? He's got that accent. Everything he says is kind of sad.
He does live with an animal, though. So we'll be reading those in our next episode. Since we're pre-recording, we don't have the boost for this, but we'll stack all those. Also, thank you to our members. Really appreciate you as this new year is coming in close and hot. CoderQA.co. If you want to sign up and support the show, you get a ad-free version. Coder QA is when those come out. And, of course, the warm and fuzzies of supporting the show directly and keeping independent podcasting alive, even if it is just barely. Keep this strange, rare, weird medium alive.
We're like the Babylon 5 of tech podcasts.
It's so weird. Well, just podcasts in general. Like, it's like the last bastion of decentralized media, and it is going to get slammed.
Would you say that we're the last hope for humanity's survival?
I think you might.
And then, like, next year, can we say we're the last hope for victory? Because those are part of the seasons 1 and 2 intros to Babylon 5. See what I did there?
Surprisingly appropriate, dude. So it's amazing. All right. Thank you, everybody who does support the show, either through memberships or boost. Mr. Dominic, is there anywhere you want to send the fine folks?
I don't know. I might get bored and leak some stuff on the game I'm working on this weekend. So.
Ooh. Weapon X?
I guess I'll go to the Gamer Radio. It's Gamer, not Gomer. That would be mean. Radio Discord, because I tend to leak things there. And if you want to catch a game of Magic the Gathering where I'm definitely not cheating, you could go there too. And if you're not convinced by the definitely not cheating.
Yeah, I know. I'm totally convinced, man. I'm totally convinced. On Weapon X, you can follow the show at Coder Radio Show or myself at Chris LES. The most beneficial thing would be you find out when we're going live. But we're wrapping those up. We have, the holidays coming up and all that, but we always try to lay it all out at jupiterbroadcasting.com/calendar when we can.
That's right.
Last but not least, though, just get the feed. If you have the RSS feed, you don't really worry about when we record or what's going on with the schedule. Makes it all irrelevant. You just sit back and download those episodes, unless we publish the wrong file accidentally.
Which happens.
It does. Coder.show/RSS for that feed directly, or you can find all the links you want at our website. In fact, links to what we talked about today are coder.show/549. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Coder Radio. See you right back here next week. Thank you, Drew. All right. There we did it. Good job. Well done, chat room. I mean, they did a lot of the hard work, let's be honest. They
did.
Yeah. All right. So I'll get the title bot going so we can get ourselves some titles. And then we're done until next Monday where we do it again. And then we're done.
2 episodes. Then we're done for like the year.
Yeah.
Wow. I might go on withdrawals. I might have to like slide into your DMs with Babylon 5 memes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Softball sized. Financially responsible. Apple hates the web. Take my robes, please. Duct tape cloning.
Come on, hacking the.
I
think it's pretty good.
Was it in this episode we talked about that?
Yeah. Was
Hacking the Gathering, or was it last one?
Shit, was that last episode? How come it didn't?
No, it was this episode. Funny how that just all blurs together already. Hacking the Gathering's pretty good. Had you like Hacker the Gathering or Hacking the Gathering?
I think Hacking the Gathering. I think, right?
Yeah.
Rhyme it? Yeah, I'm going with it.
Okay. All right, I like it too.
Sweet.
All right, Mr. Dominic. Well,
all right, then double up next week, right?
Yep, see you again.
So then when would we be back?
Oh, yeah, right.
It would be the 6th? Or the 8th, rather?
Yeah, the 8th.
The 8th. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Wow.
Am I going to remember how to even do the show?
I mean, is Sam Altman going to get fired 6 or 7 times between now and then? I don't know.
We'll have to bust in with the emergency pod. Just bust in.
I'm so tired of talking about OpenAI.
No. I know. Well, you know what? Did we put any? I don't think there was any AI in this entire.
The second one, no.
Yeah.
The second one was. Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
You know what? I miss the days of like Leonard Pottering jumping on stage, and that was like the stupid controversial thing we could laugh about. Now it's weird corporate intrigue and spies.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right, chat room. Byzies, if you want to learn more about Babylon 5, I think you need to probably find someone better.
Well, you can manage me. I still got it, so you know what?
All right.
Still convinced me. All right, Mr. Dominic.
All right. Byzies.
Talk to you soon. Byzies.
Bye.
Chat room, thank you very much for hanging out. I hope you enjoyed the double. I'm going to get out of here. Go get some lunch, get the show turned around. Appreciate you. See you on Saturday for Linux Unplugged. Yep, Saturday. That's right. See you then. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, you walked 1,000 miles. You jumped a freight train rolling. Landed in New York City, but you're just another steamboat tramp.
Now, boys, are you ready to do the rigmarole? Yeah, man. Well, go on where I told you. Do like I told you. Because everything is home cooked. Look out now. Here we go. Watch it. 1, 2, 3, 4.